Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Breakfast with MyLAW on Lex Radio. I'm here with Tunrayo Ope-Ogunseitan, who works with Aluko and Oyebode, and Busayo Oladapo works with Kenna partners.
Hi, Kunle.
Right. So we'll be discussing in the spirit of the International Women's Day, International Women's Week, and Women's History Month. We'll be discussing challenging stereotypes and how to deal with that, and just getting a deeper look into the topic, mostly in the workplace for the woman. Right. I'll start off with you, Busayo. What do you think are the stereotypes that women deal with in the workplace?
Okay, so basically, I feel like the stereotypes one of these major stereotypes that women deal with in workplace is the notion or the stereotype that men function better in roles than women. And I feel like that men function better in certain roles than women.
In certain roles?
Yes, like roles, like top managerial roles and stuff in the office. And I feel like this stereotype is sort of like an innate stereotype, because sometimes I feel like even women ourselves
believe that
there's this okay, maybe the man can do better, sort of, even when both of them are like equally qualified,
right,
and stuff. There's just this perception that maybe because the woman she might be quite emotional, she might not be able to handle the demands and the rigor that comes with taking up this role, or like getting to this position. So I think that's one thing that's, for me, I feel like it's a stereotype that happens in workplace. So most times you see people trying to. So if you look at it, while we have women rising up to top managerial positions now,
right,
as opposed to years back, if you still look at it, most times, most workplaces, you still have men at the top. You still have men at that top managerial roles, and I feel like that's because there's this stereotype that the woman might not be that capable, she might not there are other things aside. That's when you start hearing things like there are other things aside being intelligent, aside being smart, our family, she might not be able to merge both, she might not be able to manage both, because she's an emotional being and things like that. So I feel like that is one of the stereotypes that really affects women in the workplace, and right, I think it's really subtle, so it has a way of even affecting sometimes even women without knowing it, without really knowing that this thing is actually beginning to creep into me and make it's beginning to settle in.
Unconscious bias.
Exactly.
Right. Tunrayo, what do you have to say and then you can tell us of any other stereotypes we have.
I believe that Busayo has basically said a lot of the key things. I feel like the bias that we have in the workplace is a reflection of what we have in the society.
Right.
Practically speaking, you see that women have to do more, right, to qualify for certain perks, while men just have to do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I think this is so I don't even think it's a subtle bias. I think it's so obvious, right? Because women just have to prove something that men don't have to prove. So for example, if there is something that maybe a role that is open, say the general manager just left and you have both a woman and a man to occupy the role, there's just an assumption that the man is definitely going to be the head, is going to be the general manager. If the woman is going to be the general manager, of course, because she's very smart. So a woman has to be very smart, while the man just has to be good, right? And even with her very smart, she has to prove certain things. She has to prove that she's going to pick the job over her other family needs. She's going to do this, she's going to do that. So you see that when a man just has to do certain things as starters, he just has to be good, he just has to be focused. The woman has to be very good. So even when they're introducing women, they say stuff like, meet, so when they introduce them, they say, meet Mr. Kunle, he's a leading blah, 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 he's very hardworking and diligent. But when they're introducing them, meet Miss Nkiru, she's one of our best, greatest minds. Personally, I've never found anyone quite like her.
Yeah.
She walks in, they give you so, but if you're not thinking about it, you will miss the part that I have to be so much better to get what I'm getting. I can't just afford to be ordinary. I have to do much more that my male counterpart will do.
Yeah.
So I think these things are basically a reflection of the society. I think it's a shame, so to speak, because what you do, it's not just affecting the woman. Of course, the woman will realize she has to work harder, but it's also making the man realize that, I just have to chill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add to what Tunrayo said, something just came to my mind, that the fact that most times women have to, so for men, it's easier to just say, I'll learn on the job, like I'll get it. But women feel like women already have this because they're like, oh my God, there's a guy who is at stake in this thing. So for me, I need to really do I really have to? Women start overthinking, do I really have all the qualifications? Yeah. But for men, it's just like, I'll just get it, I'll just freestyle, I'll just move on. And to be honest, I feel like this stereotype is actually in it, and it personally applies to me, because when I was thinking about it, I was just thinking about sometime in the university, there was a particular role that I felt people felt I could take up the leadership position for that role.
Right.
But I personally felt like, no, I couldn't do it. There's a guy there, because there was another guy, but I just felt like, no, I didn't have the extra thing that we're both ordinary in quotes. We're both like basic. I mean, we've said we had the same qualification qualities, but I just felt like there was something more that I had to have to qualify me or to give me an edge over him. Do you understand? So, and I feel like it's just something that just sort of registered that society has. So for the women, they're just like, I can't learn on the job. But for the guy, they're just like, well, we'll freestyle it. And society just makes it seem like, since he's a guy, he will be able to learn on the job. But the woman cannot easily learn on the job. The woman needs to be extraordinary. The woman needs to have gone to have 5 other qualifications in addition to his own to show that she can actually do what he can do with just his basic qualification. So I feel like...
And that also just comes with a subordinate mentality.
Exactly.
So you have a woman being the vice president, even when you know that she is qualified to be the president. But because the guy is just usually the head, I mean, and even the vice president role, I know that sometimes you have to even fight for it. In a big company, you have to fight. You have to prove that you are worth it to be the vice president, because there's certain roles just ascribed to men. I mean, a woman can be the welfare secretary. A woman can be the secretary, type minutes of the meeting. And I have hardly ever, seen that men are saying, oh, please, can you take the note? It's always a woman. It's always a woman taking the notes for a meeting.
And even in offices now.
I think I take most of the notes at work.
Oh, okay. So I'm happy for this.
This is very, very different.
But generally, it's always a woman who, it's just there in your mind. Oh, please go and get some water. Oh, please. You would hardly enter a meeting and see a man and say, oh, please, can I get some coffee? No, it's always the woman that does those things. Yeah. So I think that, there are definitely a lot of stereotypes.
Right. So what's your opinion on the idea that whilst that is a reflection of the society, it's probably a reflection of, the family system, the common belief that, the woman takes care of the child and stuff like that. So when the woman is in a situation where it has to do with something about welfare and stuff, people always come with the belief that she'll be able to handle more stuff like that. So I mean, what's your idea on that? Is a reflection of that, and maybe when society changes to the point that men can be seen in such roles on the woman. So basically, it's like I'm saying, there's a home, there's a man and the woman, right? And you have 2 kids. Effectively, if you can view the fact that caring for those kids at a closer level is something that can be ascribed to the man, then maybe when you reflect that back to the workplace, there will be changes. Do you understand? Like, if that role of caring is at our basic level at the home, not something ascribed purely to the woman, maybe there will be a change as a reflection in the workplace. Like, what do you think about it?
Does it start from the home? Because you're saying that most likely all this gender bias starts from the house. Right. The woman seen as the nurturer and the man seen as, just in charge is the boy. Boy would always be a boy. So you're saying, do we think that if those things are changed from the home, from the family as the first step of socialization, it would inadvertently... Well, my opinion is that, the family is definitely the first phase of socialization of a child. And of course, we cannot undermine the role that the family has played in this gender stereotypes. But when change is to come about, you don't necessarily have to go to the root. I think people say, oh, go to the roots, but think about the current changes that we've seen in the society now. You've seen a lot of people voicing out their displeasure. You've seen a lot of women standing out and saying, you know what, I'm going to go for everything that I desire. I don't think any of this change has come from the family.
No, so let me.
In fact, the family is playing catch up.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at the movie industry, the film industry. Look at Hollywood. A lot of women are standing out and saying there's a lot of pay gap, this, and they're questioning all these things. It's from work. That's work, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think...
But I do not particularly have a different view, but I feel like it's both ways. I think that...
you know, I just want to ask, can a Nigerian man in the workplace, like once his wife puts to bed, can he take leave?
Yeah, there's paternity leave.
There's
paternity leave, no?
Although it's not as long as the time given
definitely
to the women.
probably a week or so in
or
most
like 2 weeks,
companies.
depending on how it is. But I mean, the point I was trying to make is, yes, I get that. Of course, you cannot. I personally feel like these stereotypes. I mean, society starts from the family, and whatever we see now is a function of what started from the home to institutions, churches, and just little groups, which now becomes, of course, the society. But then you cannot just leave it to the family and say, okay, yes, while as parents and as parents right now,
Right.
and I mean siblings, people who we are all from different homes. It's for us to unlearn, relearn, and then even in workplaces, there has to be these because I mean, some of these men have grown, not men, these men and women, society itself, we've grown from being children to becoming the adults, to becoming in charge of society and all. But I personally do not think that, okay, yes, whilst you can say women, it's very easy, okay, the old care and nurture comes from that. Yeah, of course I get, because okay, the woman is the one that gave birth to the child, so you would expect that, okay, she's more inclined to this affinity, but I don't think it is necessary that, I don't think it is cast in stone. There are some guys, I know some guys who are very homely. They like doing, like, taking care of the family, okay, setting up breakfast, doing things like that. And some women don't do it. And this brings us to another stereotype. The stereotype that the fact that you're not homely, the fact that you're not just a family person, the fact that you're not just given to cooking or given to house chores makes you not an ideal woman. And so you are not wife material. And so you're not, you get all, there's also the other stereotype that, okay, because you're doing a woman that is striving in an organization or, you know, rising to managerial position is definitely failing in her home or failing somewhere else. It's just not, I feel like it's not balanced. We're talking about equality. I feel like the fact that you are a man should also be able to, there's nothing stopping a man from also taking any of those roles or from taking, it's just society. And I feel like we all need to consciously and intentionally, you know, deal with that from cradle to...
Yeah. And just in direct response to your question, so my answer would be that in as much as the family is very important, I think that it should be concurrently done. So we should be tackling all forms of stereotypes in the workplace, in the church, as well as in the family.
Everywhere.
Everything is as important.
Everywhere.
Because the people that, you know, they've already grown, like she said, and you can't say, oh, your mom, like my mom is not going to be calling me now to say Tunrayo. You know, I have to face whatever stereotypes in the workplace and tackle it. So I think concurrently done. But then she also made a very valid point about the fact that, you know, women probably are more nurturing, right? But I think what the society, and this is very important because this is like the foundation for most of the bias, the fact that women are seen to be nurturers and while men are seen to be builders or strong people. I think what the society has done is to say that we're not the same, and because we're not the same, we're not equal. I don't know if you caught that. So of course we're not the same. Men and women are not the same.
We're different beings.
A large percentage of women are much more intuitive, you know, because they give birth, they're in tune with their body and their child, you know, they are more nurturing. Some women, not all. And men, you know, because they usually are stronger, you know, physically stronger, biologically. It has nothing to do with your desire. It's just what it is, you know. They are seen to be stronger. So what the society has done is because it say that, you know, women are strong, men are strong, women are nurturing, you know. Because of that, men are more important than women, or men should be in charge of all these things while women should be in charge of all these minor things.
Yeah.
this should not be
There's
the
no
case.
basis.
We should accept the fact that we're not the same, but still we're equal, because both parts are very important to make life. And also, what the society needs to say is that the fact that we've seen you as this does not mean this is all you can be.
All of you.
Right.
You
True.
are free to choose to be strong.
Yeah.
Men, you are free to choose to be nurturing. We just
Yeah.
think as a society that men are more
Yeah.
this than that. But if you want to start working in the military as a
Yeah.
woman, please go ahead. Men,
Yeah.
if you want to start, have a daycare,
Become
you
enough.
go ahead.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
should
exactly.
be inherently
and
free.
then, and then it becomes really, and then in society now becomes weird when you see a man doing the school run.
Exactly.
They're not looking at you like,
Why are
your
you
wife
doing
has given
this,
you food,
you know?
or what has she given to you? And you're like, hello.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And then people
Right.
now start giving you, try to set the standard for your family that, what if I decide, my husband decides that in fact he wants to be the one doing
one
the
in the
school runs,
house,
doing the
you
one
know?
cooking, being the one at home, and I should go about,
Yeah.
it's not,
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Right. I would be asking if, based on the current situation, and like society is progressing, right?
yeah.
Things that happened like probably 20, 30 years ago probably don't happen now. From like looking at it globally, from homosexuality, which was once seen as a disorder, to how it's it's accepted in the world of liberty. People should be allowed to do what they want. Progression, suffrage, women couldn't vote, and everything like that. Taking Nigeria as an example, do you think there's a difference between the working woman of probably like the 90s, 80s, and the working woman of today? Do you think like there's been some progress?
Well, personally, I feel like there has been some level of, in terms of some level of progress. So the working woman of the 90s and
80s,
90s, 80s, and even beyond was seen as not ideal.
Right.
Like, you should be at home with the children. You should be taking care of your family. Why are you working? Are you trying to usurp your husband's power? Are you trying to make a point that you're the head of the family and stuff?
And this is a bias that exists in men and women in the country.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I feel like even amongst women at that time, there are even still some women today that feel like, why is she going to work? Why is she, why can't you stay at home and take care of your children? All those kind of things. But I feel like,
As an option, or as how it should be.
as
there are
how
people
it
that,
should be.
there's the saying that you should have the option. If you want to be a housewife, you should be
Of
allowed
course, you
to
should.
be
You should. Everyone should have the option. But I think that 80s, 90s, and even and beyond, it was more of, there was more that societal perception of a working woman was more of, no, you're not the ideal woman, you're not doing it right, this is not what you should be doing and stuff. Your place is here and now, and your place should be at home. I feel like as opposed to now, we have more people understanding and realizing that women also should be able to pursue their dreams and should be able to work and should be able to build their careers and stuff. Not saying that we do not still have, not saying that those things or that mindset is not still in existence. It still exists, but it's not. I don't think it's as bad as it was like in the 90s, 80s, and beyond. Do you get?
There's been some progress.
Yes, some progress. But then I feel like talking about like struggles and some other things that women in the 90s and nowadays would face or like had to deal with. I feel like one area where there's been some level of progress is in terms of capacity building for the career woman of the 90s and 80s. I mean, because of the rise in technology, internet and stuff. Before, in the 90s and 80s, a woman who wants to build a career would definitely have to do more. Like, okay, there was this lack of access to resources. You would have to go to the four walls of a university to get some degrees and stuff. But now, you can get degrees online. You can, internet, you can just do everything. With tech and innovation, I feel like it's a lot easier for the working woman of today to, build capacity and improve herself as opposed to in the 90s and 80s.
First off, permit me to say that I don't really think in the 80s and 90s there was a concept of a working woman.
Right.
What we had was an assisting woman, a supporting woman, someone who supported her husband, assisted her husband, or someone who was enabled, allowed to do whatever she wanted to do. There were hardly women who, of course there were, but what we had dominantly were women who, even if she's working, she's probably just being a secretary at her husband's
Typist.
office, or a nurse or something that, and her husband must have allowed her. Of course, I'm not saying there were no women working then. We did have women working, but not like we have now. Not like women dominating or doing what they want to do. Then you needed permission. You needed to be allowed to do things, you know, and that's why then they'll be like, oh, you want to work, has he allowed you? You have to talk to your husband about it. Is he going to allow you do this? If he tells you no, sit at home with my kid, that's fine now. You know, that was what we had. But now we have women who can choose, and I think choice is at the foundation of, you know, equality and of feminism. The ability to choose. It's okay to be a housewife. If I want to, I'm sorry, but personally, if I see somebody that I want to take care of me, I'm going to tell them that, okay, I am a lawyer. I do quite well in business. But if you want to take care of me, I'm all yours. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I can switch and say, you know what, I want to start working. Yeah. The underlying things I have a choice to do. And that's why sometimes I differ with some feminists, because they tend to enforce the fact that we're fighting for something doesn't mean we're fighting for the exact same, you know, type of things. What we're fighting for is our right to choose. I agree. So you cannot tell me that, oh, I have to be working.
The working class woman. I choose that I want to stay at home and bring my family.
You tell me, oh, what's wrong with you? You know, and that's why I have a lot of issues.
I agree.
So what we're fighting, because then you're actually you're counterproductive, because then you're actually, you know, forcing me to do something. You're taking away a compulsion to give me another compulsion. I
agree.
Do you understand? So you're just swapping bondage. What if I don't want to work? Yeah. What if I don't I don't like speaking English or going to board meetings? So at the core of feminism should be the choice of women. And I think now we have more awareness. We have more women choosing what they want to do. Yeah. If they want to be a housewife, if they want to work and be a work titan or whatever. Yeah. But one thing I also want to note, and I think this is where a lot of men usually say women pick and choose, is that there has to be an agreement. So you can't choose to be a housewife to a husband who wants you to support. Because if we're saying we're the same, then bring that same energy when it has to do with taking care of the
because we have the finances. We have a home together.
So you can't choose to be just sitting there not really doing anything. If I don't want that, like you're my wife, I want you to support me because you were supposed to support me, right? So let both of us go out and hustle. Yeah. That's why I said if I have a husband who says, Tunrayo, dear, please sit at home, I'll go and work, you just be good. What do you need? Do you need $1 million? Send your account number. I'm good. But my husband has to say I don't mind. Not necessarily give me the say stay at home. But say I don't mind if you want to stay at home. You know. So I think these are important concepts in the whole race that we have to know.
And especially, you know, just to put one more point on that, especially because in a family context, the husband and the wife, you're building your home together. So there has to be that agreement. That's why I have a problem with people trying to set rules for you.
Exactly, because different things work for different people.
You cannot. So when people are like, okay, why you should be able to stand up and speak up. And yes, I'm standing up to speak up, but I mean, it doesn't mean this is not this is what obtains in my home. This is what I want. So you cannot come and decide for me. So I feel like it's very important for women having the ability to choose, and also for men as well. But we are together. We are partners in this thing. So we need to come together and agree what works for you
in that
no
relationship.
person is trying to oppress the other person, but both parties are trying to see how we can both be happy. We can both achieve what we want to achieve in this home and all.
As
so
partners.
I think that as partners, basically.
Yeah.
Right. You know, that makes a lot of sense for me, because, you know, there's this idea that the reason why, for example, in a marriage setting, the husband would be telling the wife, or people would ask if you've gotten permission and stuff like that, because, you know, the man was the breadwinner, or the man used to be or is the breadwinner, and, you know, it feels like with that, taking full control of that role comes certain power, right? You're doing the work, it's bringing all the funding and all that stuff, and the woman is doing the taking care and all those stuff like that. And, you know, one is seen as the more, you know, difficult role and the all-encompassing role, and, you know, stuff like that. It's also the general belief, like, if there was a home where the woman was the breadwinner and the husband is the stay-at-home dad, there's the belief that she would wield a certain control. Do you understand? And, you know, it's a bias. I would believe the bias in all of us, because there are women that can't deal with the concept of a man wanting to be the house husband, or in the end, like, just stay home and take care of the kids. Like, well, you should get up and work. Like, so me, I'll not be going to work. So
Yeah.
there's that. So I don't think, like, even part of the bias, I think, like, in certain areas, we're not even ready for the other hand. Because if it's going to work, we must be able to see these roles as changed in extreme
Evolving.
opposites as possible. Like, an actual a man who sits down at home and his job is to, like, take care of the kids while the man goes to work and comes back. But, you know, I don't think we are ready to sit with that,
Yeah.
because a lot of women are very uncomfortable with that idea. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
How
I
can
see
manage
that.
that one?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Essentially, you're saying that if both of us can agree that I sit at home while
Right.
you go out to work, then we must be ready
So
to
I-
make sure that you don't now start making it seem like you're in control.
Yeah, that doesn't
because of that. But I think that is
become
not a function
a
of the
tool of
system
power.
itself. The
Right.
system of you staying at home and me going out to work. It's a function of the character of both parties. That's why you see some people actually are very fine. The man goes out, the woman stays in. Not just laying about, of course, of taking care of the kids, preparing breakfast
Which
for
is
you,
not small
which
job.
is not a small job. But you see that in a lot of cases it works well. The husband appreciates the job, like, thank you for taking care of my kids,
Yes.
of the home, and the wife is like, oh my God, you are the best. Like, thank you
Yes.
for bringing money,
Money,
blah blah
yes.
blah. But in a situation where there is a character deficiency,
Yeah.
the man
Right.
starts thinking that what he's
What are you
doing is
even
the
doing?
real thing, and what the woman is doing is just small. But when a
Mm-hmm.
man, that's why you must love and appreciate what the other person is doing.
Yes.
You don't think that one is more superior than the other, and
That's
that is
it.
why you have to come with the bargaining power that I can sit at home, but I can also work. So if you at any point in time feel like you're doing all the job, let's work. You start taking care of the kids while I start going out. Do you understand? So at every point, the fact that I'm staying at home should not be because I cannot work. It should be because I have chosen to, and we've agreed that I will stay at home. And I think character plays a lot, because some people, even if I am working and you are working, they will still think that if they're the ones working the most.
Yeah.
You know, so I think
It may be
character,
because I'm the one bringing more, so
more
I
money
mean,
or
do you know
something,
what are
or
the
why
things
are you
I'm
not
doing
earning
and
more? So I
stuff?
think character
Yes.
comes in, because there are situations where the man is at home
Yeah.
taking care of the kids. Some men are actually great cooks. Like, they just want to take care of the kids and take care of the home. They have more nurturing abilities.
So if you are
You know,
out there,
and the
What
woman
did
is
you
the
give a
one
thumbs
going
up?
out. But
Thumbs up with
they
the-
have
Stop
great
watching ID.
marriages.
Do you do that in your home?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They have great marriages
That's nice.
because both
Yeah.
of them respect one another. They understand
Right.
that we agreed on this and we're
Yes,
fine with this.
exactly.
I love what you're doing. You're taking good care of the kids. I love what you're doing. You're bringing money. And that's
Yeah.
what marriage and partnership is supposed to be about.
Right, and yes,
Yes.
we went so far into the whole marriage thing because you said that a reflection of what happens in the workplace.
Yeah.
And we've also spoken about how the Nigerian woman in the 80s, 60s, 70s, and the Nigerian man in the 20s. There's a difference that's in progress, right? So the question I would be asking is like, do you think that progress means that there isn't a glass ceiling anymore, right? Because we have Okonjo as president of the World Trade Organization. So many other women,
Yeah.
taking up leadership roles at the top level, at the highest levels. Do you, based on this progress spoken about, and these women reaching the heights and the peak of everything, do you think that there isn't a glass ceiling anymore?
Well, I wouldn't say that because of the progress being made, there isn't the glass ceiling anymore. I feel like the glass ceiling still exists,
Right.
but
some women are just able to
women
break
are
through
just able
smashing
to
it.
break through. But then it still comes back to what we said earlier about the stereotypes and the effort you need
Why
to.
do we have to break?
Exactly? Why can't we just go? Why can't we just go up?
Why is there a
Right.
stealing?
Why is this? Thank you. Why do we have
That's
to break
just
it?
a way to explain how. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Do you get? So we still have to struggle, say, okay, I have extra this, I have this, see, look at my profile and all of that just to hit that glass ceiling. And the truth is the fact that we have women rising up, breaking the glass ceilings and stuff, doesn't mean that they're not still those women who are unable to do
Right.
that because of this stereotype is spoken about. Because a woman is expected to, because maybe she has a husband that's not so understanding, or there's just this expectation that, oh, you've gone this far in your career, but now you're about to get married and your children are involved, so you need to pause. And then because my friend was telling me about a series that she was watching the other day about how the lady was going to, she had been looking out for a particular role, like a position in our organization, and then it happened that she was at the edge of having that role, and then she realized that she was pregnant. and then she was like that she's not going to tell her. She was telling her friend that she was going to abort the child because she feels like this is going to be a problem and this is going to be an hindrance. Our office might not see it as this. My question is, why should that be a problem?
Yeah.
Why should that be a problem? Because I'm about to have a child, and so you think that there's just a chance that you will not be able to live up to the expectations. Yes, I do not. I agree that it might be difficult. Of course, she'll have to go on leave. She'll have to do all of that and things, but it shouldn't make. I feel like society makes it seem like.
I think that's what factors into that decision. The fact that if she's pregnant, both of them are trying to get like managing director role, and then the woman in the running for it realizes she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Don't you think like the fact that she would have to leave at some point is probably what buys into it, as opposed to like maybe any serious bias
to making the man.
Yeah.
To making the man look like even. Yeah. I don't think I feel like even when she's qualified. Like even like I mean.
No, I'm saying both of them are qualified.
Yes.
Right. The man and the woman are perfectly qualified.
Yeah.
They are even unable to pick because of how good both of them are. They both equally, in regards to their sex, and then the woman realizes she's pregnant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Don't you think that decision would be made based on the fact that based on her biology?
So because she's her biology.
I'm just saying.
I'm
saying like maybe it's because she's going to take a leave and she'll be out of commission for like a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't you think that decision is based off that as opposed to a deeper bias than that? Like,
no, I think that yes, it might not seem deep at the face of it, but I feel like whether we like it or not, this is one of the reasons why a lot of women are not able to sort of move forward, because when you go into that, you just started, you moved on, and then in such situations, it's usually difficult to come back and then say, okay, let's move on from where was the next thing? Where was the next thing? I'm not saying that she will abort a child or do anything and things like that. That's what I'm saying. I just feel like some of these things are like, if it might not even be pregnancy, it might just be that you just feel like this one, will her husband be able to she might need to, we should be able to be traveling if something happens and we need to go. We should be able to leave our family and things like that. So I feel like these stereotypes are one of the reasons why we still have the glass ceilings. Yes, women are thriving, they're trying to break the glass ceilings, but they still exist, and as a result of some of these stereotypes that we've spoken about today, basically.
Right.
I just want to add that let's not play pretend. Companies, especially big companies, have certain structures because they anticipate that there might be, acts of God or things they can't control. Right. A man can be in a position and break a leg or have an accident that would require him to be out of the office for more than a year. Right. But still,
they will say acting. There will be someone
they would be, and that's why a lot of senior roles have, manager and deputy manager, or president and vice president, and that is why those roles are there. So if a woman just gets pregnant, why can't her vice take over for those 9 months? It's not forever. I mean, why can't her deputy take over? So what we're saying is that we know, we're not pretending. We're aware that the organizational structures that recognize there might be things, that you can't help, or there might be situations where someone else has to step in.
Yeah.
You should not deny a woman a position she's fit for just because you anticipate she might get pregnant. That's why you have a vice.
Yeah.
What you might do as an organizational, check is to make sure the vice and the deputy are two sexes. You can even say that's because you're trying to achieve equality, gender equality. Balance. You might make sure that the vice is one woman, the deputy is a man. The major player is a man or a woman, and the deputy is a member of the other sex. But do not deny people what they're entitled to because you're scared of something that might happen to the other sex. Anyways,
isn't that scenario you've painted? It would mean effectively there would be, there would hardly be a situation where it's woman at both positions. Don't you think of that? Like, cause there are positions where it's male and
female,
male,
yeah.
So you're saying using that tactics, then companies should always try to make it male, female. Do you understand?
Yes.
So basically using
people
that
generally
thinking,
do this because of they're trying to maintain
female.
Balance.
For example, on boards of companies, usually you have six men, 6 women, or 3 men, 3 women. It's something that is actually done to maintain balance. So
So I don't think there's a problem with that.
I don't think there's a problem with
intentional. Okay, because I was just thinking of a situation where the person that's qualified for the main position is a woman, and the person that's actually also qualified
is
for
a
the
woman.
vice also
That
a
there's
woman.
also no problem with that.
There's
because
no
we
problem
have
with that.
male as well.
There's no problem with that, but where it's a company policy, there are company policies that require equal men and equal women. That is
Right.
equality.
Yes.
Right.
That is equality right there.
Right.
Nobody's going to say, oh, but two women are qualified. If it's company policy, then they'll
They
probably
must abide
employ
by
a woman,
it.
then abide by it. In that case,
Right.
it's equality. Like it's not tilting towards anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Right.
So in that case, nobody can say, oh, but there are two women qualified for it. Oh, yes, but we usually want one man and one woman due to our internal equality policies.
Internal policy. So who is the next man?
So
that is
who's the
also
next man that is also
Step
qualified?
in.
Or should we get a better
Right,
qualified
right,
man?
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I mean, we've spoken about the glass ceiling, and I think beyond glass ceiling, right? Like the more, the more closer to home is the concept of the wage gap. I mean, in your profession, do you really think there's a wage gap, or do you really think that still exists?
Tunrayo.
Why did you?
Do I think there's a wage gap? So because of the nature of the profession, you generally don't really know what other people may be earning. But one thing I know is that I think men have more courage to ask than women do. So men probably, ask for more than women do. So for example, if you're negotiating a role, a man would typically have the same courage that made him think it was good for the role to say, oh yeah, I want this salary, because he is used to getting what he asked for. He's used to pretty much, having a bargaining power. But a woman who has been really careful to make sure, oh my God, she's seen better than her male colleagues, and who has to have more and more and more. When it comes to the negotiating table, she probably would be like, this one, before they say that I'm going to have maternity, let me just accept what they're offering me. That's what she said about internalized bias.
In it.
And it's the truth, because a lot of women, they are at the table, they know that they have a less bargaining power, because they know that these people interviewing her are probably saying, she's a woman, should we take her? So imagine when I know that I might not even get this job because there are other men that they prefer.
And so you just feel like if they say that much, let me just hold it.
Like, let me just hold it. But men will be like, what do I have to lose? I'm a man. Like, it can't get better than this. It can't get better than this. Let me propose what I want to say. But women are careful, like, before they change their mind and say, I'm asking for too much. You that we're pitting to employ, let me just hold it. Yeah. But about wage gap in the legal profession, I'm not sure. Maybe because there might be like definite
fee structure based on levels.
But I know that in other spheres, like entertainment, there is definitely a wage gap.
Right.
Like Hollywood, like I earlier said, Hollywood actresses came out at some point to say that their male counterparts were being paid much more than the female ones. For example, in the Blackish, series, I think the head actress said that she was being paid like much less than the male, and I think she was even more prominent. So I think that definitely exists. I can't really speak so much facts, but I know that is something that definitely exists.
I think that as Tunrayo said, actually, for the legal profession, it might not be. But then it definitely still exists, and I think also because there are some rules that that people classify as for a specific gender. So you feel like, okay, a secretary should be a woman. Like a personal assistant, somebody should be a woman and stuff. So there's that expectation that, okay, he's not just secretary, how much? Let it be this amount. But then in a situation where you find a man coming for a role, I mean, have you thought of it? Having a man coming for the role of a secretary, there's this
you want to behave yourself
and say we can't pay him the same amount, that kind of thing.
He won't accept it.
He won't accept it.
A woman will just accept it.
A woman will just accept it.
You think they'll pay a male secretary more?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Because it'll be like, he's coming out of his way. He's doing the normal. He's doing extra. Be a
secretary.
Normally, he shouldn't even be a secretary in the first place. So he's striping, he's doing something different. And like, or you have maybe a male caregiver or something. Just be like, he must have something different. I personally feel like, although I think that, okay, we have more male chefs.
Stylists. male stylists. I
That's
don't
where
want to
it starts
mention,
from.
but you
That's
guys
where
shake
it
the
starts
table.
from.
Male
That's where it starts
stylists
from. They'll tell you that
generally take
more money
than, because
they feel like you should be a
it
woman
must be
in the
very
first place.
good
You must be
though.
very,
if you're
very
styling your
good.
hair, this is an attack. But yeah, I'm
Even
shaking the table.
Even you that
unique.
you're going there will just be like, he's a male star.
That means it must be very good. So instead of paying him
Meanwhile, you just look
6K
at
that
the
I'll
woman, you just look
pay
at
a
the woman
woman,
and
I'll
just be
pay him
like,
8K.
regular, she's
Isn't
supposed to do that.
Can't
Yeah.
that be
It's like
ascribed to scarcity
It's like
of
a
type?
unicorn.
No, that's not.
Not
Do you
necessarily that
understand?
they're better.
Not
but-
necessarily.
No,
Exactly.
I'm not saying like
It's
they're better.
just that-
Scarcity of type, meaning you hardly get a male stylist. So when you see one, you believe.
Okay, so let's talk
You
about
get, like-
She's
a
mine.
male-dominated industry. Give me
Right.
one, and tell me that they pay women
what's-
more.
a
male-dominated
male-dominated
industry.
The military.
In the military.
The military. Do they pay
They pay women
women more? Do they?
I don't. Do they even? I don't know. This
Do they? Now let's move to another
Right.
example.
I'm just.
I agree.
No, I was just asking. Like,
yeah.
But then when
like,
he
don't you
flips,
think it's
Yeah,
because
when it
of
flips.
when
you
he
know,
flips, is
Because
the
it's
other
like
way
it-
around. That's the truth. When he
Right.
flips, is the other way around.
The police. Do they
Yeah.
pay women more? No. In fact, they even have more limits for women.
For women,
More this,
yes.
this.
Can
So
you
women-
pregnant
women
to
never
get
win.
this, to get that?
Women never win.
So I mean, discussing all these problems, like what do you think are the ways we can begin to solve these things? Because I mean, it's good enough to say, these are the problems.
Yeah.
Everybody, some people will be like, we know these are the problems.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So how do we challenge these problems? Like,
Yeah.
because coming from the fact that their mentalities, their
Yeah.
unconscious bias
Yeah.
that we all have,
Yeah.
personally, that we don't know. I've had a friend tell me
Mhm.
like, this misogyny that we speak about is not. It doesn't have to be like an intentional thing. Like, oh, I really don't care about women. Like, based on your upbringing or things like you are just normally inclined to. You might just be misogynistic by default, and like you have to think it. I mean, not at a deep level, but like at some like mentalities and how you view issues. Like, oh, it's your daughter that should be in the kitchen, and for example, stuff like that. Like, I mean, so how do you think we can go about challenging it? Because I mean, obviously, we've stated that there has been some progress.
Yes.
But like, how do we?
Yeah. I personally feel like it's a lot of unlearning what we already know, and it has to be an intentional effort.
People find it very difficult to
Unlearning and
unlearn.
relearning. Well, it's not easy. That's why we now need to also bring it back to back to the basics, back to every level of society, from the family. So now parents who are like starting a home, starting their family, should know that there's nothing like, okay, your sister should go and do the dishes, you are the boy, you go and wash the car, you warm the car. It can be the other way around. Do you get? I feel like parents and even guardians, even in schools, they need to start, because when you make boys or ladies do those things by default, that's how we register.
The boy is the class captain, the girl is the assistant class captain.
The boy is the girl,
the boy is the
and sometimes the boy does not even want to be a class
Of
captain.
course.
No. The boy doesn't even want to be a class
That
captain
happens.
at all.
The girl is always
The boy
assistant
doesn't have to be the
advice.
class captain at all, but
We
the
have
girl,
head
the
girl, head
assistant.
boy.
To be honest, this is actually how it starts.
Yeah,
And
right.
most times, I don't even know about you, but most times, even in secondary schools where you have head boy and head girl, I don't know. But my secondary school, head boy was always ceremonial. They did not want to do anything. It was the head girl that was always doing everything. Do you get?
Right.
So I'm serious, because most times the truth is that I feel like sometimes society even puts pressure on the guys. Some of them don't even want to do these things. Some of them don't like they are just like,
be a man. You're
Be
the
a
boy.
man,
You have to take charge.
you're like, really?
I just want to be useless.
I just want
no,
to sit
you have
down.
to take charge. You're
Not
a man.
necessarily that I want to be useless, but I probably just want to sit down and just be there and just not stress.
Yeah.
Do you get? The guy is like, I don't want to, Daddy,
So
I don't
this-
want to drive, I don't want to do anything. Let me be in the kitchen. It's weird. Some people say, like, why are you in the kitchen? You should not be in the kitchen. If
Literally,
that's what
some
he
people
wants
say,
to
get
do,
out of the
get
kitchen.
out of the kitchen.
But if the girl is in her room, she's
Like,
will
can you come out?
is
What
it
do you
a-
know how to
what
do?
do-
How will you train your
That's the
children?
thing.
How will you do that? So I feel like parents should know that when you're training, upbringing, it is for both children. My female child should be able to know how to, run errands, do all these things, clean the home. Same applies to my male child as well. And I feel like even in societies, but when we have women coming up, I don't know, because the truth is that even for most of societies, most of organizations that we have, as we said, some of all these things, it's already registered in the man's head.
Right.
The structure is already put in place. Sometimes even the women, sometimes we are even the one. To be honest, I feel like it's a lot of learning and unlearning. This thing reminds me of a conversation I was having at some point with my dad at home. We're talking about, I think, elections and stuff. And my dad was telling me that all the time we are saying women this, that to be very honest, there are sometimes that when the women even come out, we fellow women will not vote for the woman.
Right.
Because there's sort of this, that's why I said this thing is innate. There's this, you will not be thinking, is she really qualified? is she that, can she really handle it? Hey, Nigeria, it's a lot of pressure. Can she really do it? So you see that even the women, we ourselves, we are not, we have that fear inside. So I feel like, to be honest, my answer to your question would be, as impossible as it seems, we really need to be intentional about looking at the male and the female gender as both being possible, having, you know, opportunities and the possibility to do whatever it is they want to do. Let's not box people into roles, and allow people to have their free will and their choice to do whatever it is they want to do. And it's very important that we start at the grass level, families, schools. You know, let's start making those changes.
Because I personally believe like one of the hardest things for a man to do, or for a human to do, is to unlearn a bias. Aside from like when you're young, it's almost impossible. One of the most difficult things to do. So maybe it's probably when you get into like structures or institutions that already have that in place, then you know you have to adapt to that structure. It's the kind of thing where you don't have a choice. But where's the choice of changing a bias? So you have no idea how difficult that is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
So you know, and it applies to not just this issue. So many issues: religion, outlook on life, belief of how government should be run. You know, ideas like for a person to unlearn a bias ingrained in him from childhood, it's an extremely difficult thing to do. So it's usually so basically one of the solutions. And you know, we've established that these biases are destructive and affect not just the man, but not just the woman, but the man too. Because you know, a man would be uncomfortable. I'm almost certain if a man told his father I wanted to be a nurse, the answer would be like, why can't you be a doctor? Do you understand? But probably we got that from the daughter. I probably react the same way. And you know, even women tend to look down on men and you know, view men who go for the female-dominated roles as
weak, not
less masculine, and there's this whole emasculation part of it. So it's like a really complicated process that, like, it needs, like, probably one of the solutions we said should be, you know, changing policies in these institutions. Like, if there's a rule that this has to be like this, then you know, people would have to, you know, adapt to the issues like that. And it even goes down to our laws, like, you know, we have a lot of laws that that still need fixing. I mean, what was please tell us a couple that you told me about?
Okay, the one I find very, very is, you know, the fact that a woman can a man can confer Nigerian citizenship on his wife by virtue of marriage. Right. You get, but it's not vice versa. Right. So why? Is it not in the same marriage that made us one? Right. Do you understand? Right. So why can't it be? Right. And also, I feel like those things are.
So how do we go about, you know, changing these laws on? Because if I mean, do you think there would be a need for more female involvement in lawmaking to begin to effect these changes? Or
I think that it's not even about like the.
I mean, to talk on Nigeria, I mean, lawmaking in Nigeria is just on a natural level. It's quite terrible, right? I think there was a conversation that went on air of a lawmaker stating that if a woman denies her husband sex.
Why are you having that conversation?
Right, literally on the floor. Shouldn't we do something for if a woman denies sex to her husband for like 6 months? Shouldn't we do so? I'm like, how?
It's bad enough that there's no
like how did
marital rape.
Right, I think probably that's what led to the conversation. Like, they will say, you get like, how did someone say something like that in the house, and you know, people were just there looking like that wasn't like a travesty of it. Was it a travesty to have that thought, or you know? I mean, we hear the most terrible things. Someone says, Minister of Defense says, why can't we defend ourselves? Someone says, why do you feed the people that didn't have food and stuff like that? So, I mean, so how do you really think it's possible for these laws to change with the, you know, involvement of women in these things, or it has to be able to happen whether there are women there or not? Like, what's it?
Well, personally, I think that it's not even because to make laws in Nigeria, I mean, there's a procedure. I mean, the bill has to be passed and all of that. So, yes, it's enough to have maybe women, you know, advocating for this change and, you know, being able to get that bill to be initiated and pass through all these stages. But the truth is, it will still have to go through all the stages. It will still have to get voted. You still have to do third reading and all of that. And in the end, it's still I think in the end it's still a question of how much support do we have
Right.
for this change that we want to
Because when
see.
they're ready to make laws, they would make laws.
Do you
Didn't
get-
they try to do? Wasn't there like supposed to be like social media bill at some point?
Yeah.
But like if they are intentional about stuff,
Exactly.
they would
So
do
if we're
stuff.
intentional about it, if we have enough support on ground for
Yeah.
these laws, then we see. But then I feel like Nigeria, and we've even moved beyond the point of laws. It's like we have a lot of laws. Though. Someone was saying that we have laws for everything, but when it now gets to the less
Enforcement.
Right.
implementing the laws, that's where the problem is. We have laws, I feel like the problem of even us having these laws is not as much as, because by the time you now see the penalty for not doing something, you just be like, oh wow, this is it.
Right.
Maybe you pay one kind of fine or something. So I just feel like, yes, on the one hand, we need to have enough support for these laws and these changes we want to see, but it's also important that we also look at implementation and seeing that we don't just have laws that are not without effect, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Summarily, as regards how do we get these things to get better?
Right.
I mean, she's spoken on the laws bit. Personally, I don't really like speaking on the laws in Nigeria because, to be honest, it's really herculean to even get a law passed, and then a law is passed, and then you realize it has so many defects, and then the enforcement is another thing. But I think she's done justice to that. So I'm just going to look at basically generally how to get a more equal society. And I think the first thing is awareness, and I'm happy that people are more aware of what is happening. I mean, you can't close your eyes to what is happening. People are more inclined to speak about the issues that affect them. That's the first step, because you can't even tackle a problem if you do not know what the problem is, or if you don't acknowledge that there is a problem. Secondly, I think the next thing that we should do more would be to talk about it, to question things, right? When you see things going awkwardly, talk about it. Don't just close your eyes. If you go to visit a friend and his or her mom is saying, Junior, leave the kitchen. Be bold enough to say, why should he leave the kitchen? I'm not saying that, and that is what I do. I'm not saying, I'm not, because you don't need to just offer lip service. You don't need to offer lip service. You have to be able to speak when it matters, because that's the way that you actually get change,
so true.
right? So I'm not saying you should say, what do you mean, ma? Who are you? No, I'm not saying that. But just jokingly, no, why should he leave the kitchen?
What if
Why
he
should
what
he
if he wants to become
even
a
if
chef?
he doesn't,
you know,
even if he doesn't, I'm not even going to say what if he wants to become a chef. He should be in the
able
kitchen
to
because
do
the
it.
girl is in the kitchen, right? So why should he leave the kitchen?
Isn't the chef a male-dominated industry too?
What?
Isn't like being
No.
a chef?
No,
It's not a
No,
male-dominated.
no, it's not. It's
No.
not.
Right.
It's
But
not,
there's a
it's not-
presumption
that's
that the male, but you know, there's a presumption that the male chefs are like, the correct ones.
So ask
okay.
questions.
I
Ask
read
questions
something
that
like
don't necessarily argue. The man don't be like, "What do you mean?" Not start arguing.
Get
Not
out
start
of my
fighting in
house.
someone's house. No, just ask questions. Leave them. They will. The next time
Leave them
someone
to
else will say
answer.
something, right? It's just like religion as well. Trying to get someone. You don't need to finish it that day. Just drop a question, and then next time they will start realizing. But you just can't keep quiet. In your office as well, if someone is telling you to do something that you know it's as a result of bias, don't necessarily be so, and this is something I want to tell women, don't necessarily be so angry. Don't do it from an angry place. Do it from a calm place. I want to educate you. I want to, get rid of this bias, because if you're doing things from anger every time, people are going to think there's a problem wrong with you. Why are you coming
Why
at me
you
like that?
aggressive?
This
Why
is
you
how
be-
we've always
why
done
on the
it.
edge?
Understand that it's not the fault of people who are doing it. It's just how they've been
Society
oriented.
has
So
become-
just do it from a place of peace, and I know it can be really annoying sometimes. There's sometimes that you should actually yell, but don't always yell. Do it from a place of peace. And I'm just trying to educate you. This is how it should be. So basically, awareness, talking more, and basically doing walking the talk, or what did they say? Basically, actually acting in a
Walking
way
the
that
talk,
shows
yes.
that you are for equality.
this
Yeah. So I
equality.
think that's basically it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. I feel like you've been able to delve into the topic and discuss some very interesting areas. So basically, we should all try to, first of all, hopefully the policies and all these institutions should be the type of policies that accommodate to the point where even if there are biases, the biases would have to adapt based on the fact that what is in place in the system.
Exactly.
And then our mental situation, our fortitude, mentality, the relearning of or learning of bias, which we all know is very difficult. And that's a very interesting thing you said, because I take that stance on a lot of issues. You come to a certain issue where someone has been brought up with the entire notion from childhood that a certain thing is wrong. Maybe same sex or something like that is extremely wrong. Like that's what they were brought up on, like how most of it taboo it is. And then society has moved forward and said this is a period of liberation, and people should be able to do what they want. Like man, because they have human dignity, let them. And then you try to have a conversation about that, and you go from a point of, oh, you're just homophobic, and you get, and people, and those things, not having the conversations without calm and stuff, don't and really context. Get the message across.
I feel like
it just creates friction, and you get like, so
it's
like
also
that's
important
very interesting
to understand that the person that you're dealing with also has his or her own opinion, and how that person,
and that's valid, right?
Exactly, respecting that person's opinion,
right? By having something sort of like a symposium and meeting of minds, I feel like that's when progression can be had. Like if you're shouting over me, or if you're shouting, yelling, and the other person is yelling, nobody's going to. Despite the fact that it's the loudest volume, nobody's taking in anything. People are just putting stuff out. So that's interesting. And these are the possible solutions we can have. But I mean, we can also so basically, like the quotes, like the hashtag says, choose to challenge whenever you see this stereotype.
Choose to challenge.
Right.
I think that's just it.
Thank you very much for coming, Busayo. Thank you, Tunrayo.
Just like to put this out there for like all the ladies and all the women out there. Like, I mean, just. Basically, aside, choosing to challenge, just believe so much in yourself, believe in your abilities, like know that you can do whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you set your mind to do, you have the ability to do it. That's the truth, because I feel like women, like we have so much in us, and there was something that somebody said recently to me, that women should be able to stand up and take those bold steps. You don't have to, because sometimes some of the things that inhibits us is we think that, we need to be extra good. But guys are just like, they just go in there and like, I'll learn on the job, I'll get it done. And that's how they do it. They move on. So we should also be bold enough to take those steps. Do you get? And I just hope that society sort of enables us as we move on. But the truth is, you need to be able to, people will look at you and be like, you're being extra, but just believe in yourself. And
basically, to summarize what she's saying, a very recent favorite quote of mine is, act like you are it and then become it. You don't necessarily need to be it from before. The get-go. Exactly. Act like you're the badass that you are, and then become it.
You just become it. Just freestyle.
Someone told me something.
I'm not saying you should do nonsense.
Funny enough, someone told me something one time that say, I don't know if this will fit though, that say a lie 1,000 times and it becomes the truth. Like you just be like, this is me.
So basically,
but you know it, you're in that thing.
I disagree with that quote, but like
dare to be that thing. Choose to be that thing. But thank you so much for having us.
So much.
It was an insightful session.
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Fortune, for being on the program. And this was. We've done this stuff like probably like 10 episodes, 11 episodes now. Not one has Mr. Fortune participated until today. When you raised up his hand saying that he does the same thing at home. I think it's interesting. I think we all really have to learn, which is probably difficult part. And we hope people begin to effect these changes. And it's easy to say it as we are now, and then people become parents, and they do the same thing. They would carry the female child to the kitchen and stuff like that. A lot of people say that now, but when it's time to do it, they find themselves doing the same thing. So it's not really easy to unlearn, but we're working towards it. So choose to challenge is the quote for the day, and thank you for listening, and see you on the next episode.